This is a code blue alert. By all indications, by all data compiled, we are in the midst of the sixth extinction. That's what I said. And if we don't do something very quickly about this, no code blue of any resuscitation is going to save us as a species and the other species that share this planet. We are truly in the midst of what can only be titled mass animal deaths. The carnage of this catastrophe continues to mount. We see this in our headlines and we say, oh, that's a shame. But we never ask ourselves, seriously, what's causing this? What can I do? Because it becomes almost overwhelming on an individual basis, doesn't it? But this is the reality that we must face, and we must address above our biases, our bigotries, our prejudices, our hatred, our elitism, because if we don't, none of those things will matter. Now, whether it could be caused by the deforestation of the Amazon forest, the jungles, could be. We know this. Evidence clearly shows that the use of electromagnetic waves, hello Wi-Fi, is having a direct effect upon one of the most important chains in the food chain. And the animal kingdom is crying out to us. So let's take a look and see what's happened here since 2012. Now the numbers go back decades, but to keep it simple, let's just start going forward. 2012, 465 known mass death events in 67 countries. And when we say mass death events, this is more than just a couple. It typically ranges in the hundreds and goes up from there. We see this all the time. The fowl falling out of the air for no particular reason. 2013, 798 known mass death events in 93 countries. And when you begin to see this, and you begin to realize how far and how wide it is, it's not a local or regional. It's happening on a global scale. The mass animal die-off continues. In 2014, 651 known mass death events in 76 countries. The aquatic life, starting in 2014, seemed to be especially hard hit. In 2015, 828 known mass death events in 96 countries. Reports from all over North America, England, Wales, and again, the aquatic life, mammals. 2016, it gets even more interesting. 556 known mass death events in 81 countries. And in these events, the numbers became larger in the species. It began to show up in inner water fresh waterways. began to show up in places that had no toxic sources. But it becomes more and more evident. And it becomes in more and more places. What is taking place here, ladies and gentlemen? Something's going on. You can't ignore this. The animal kingdom is crying out to us. And look what's happened already in 2017. 53 known mass death events. So we look at the cause and the reasons. Well, when a species, the species that are extinct or have reduced stocks for several reasons, but the main cause is the destruction of habitat due to human activities. As species evolves, most of them are adapted to specific habitat or environment that best meets their needs for survival. Without this particular habitat, the species cannot survive. Now we know that as human population continues to expand, this does have a natural effect. But there's other reasons, just other than that, which we can attribute because of us, Homo sapiens. Our species is by far, or was, shall I say, the primary reason for most of the extinct species on this planet. We've done something to our oceans. Our oceans are dead. Take a good look at this, folks, because when this happens, the catastrophe becomes a set of dominoes that begin to trip and fall on each other. True. This is called bleaching. It's impacting the entire Pacific region. And when the coral reefs die, so do the fish. We know the mass die-off of bees. We thought for the longest time that this could be contributed to colony collapse. Well, didn't turn out that that was always the case because it left a lot of unanswered questions. Now there's a new disease hitting bees, deforms their wings. But more and more evidence is leading towards what we have done to these creatures by the use of cell phones, modern technology. And folks, if it can kill the bees, it can kill us. The fact that we're seeing this in virtually every part of the world tells us something is going on. And when you take in consideration what happens on the land, of which we have seen the eradication of many species, when this starts happening to the oceans, it will not take long to impact us. It is now said that this will become a distant memory. The coral reefs around the world, as let's say we will classify the coral reefs as a species, is being eradicated. Who, what, or why? If we don't figure this out, folks, you can forget what may be coming from the heavens. It will kill us right here. And this is the progression that's taking place on a global level, particularly, as I said, in the Pacific Ocean. And when you start losing the coral reefs, you start losing the aquatic life, as I said, the dominoes fall very quickly. You don't think it's bad? Take a look at this, folks. This is epidemic. This is more serious than on top of everything else. It seems like it's just continually compounding, right? Precept upon precept, one thing after another. And it seems like no matter how you want to separate one event, they're all connected. Radiation in the Pacific Ocean. We did this, folks. Mankind did this. And it's having devastating effects. Whatever is happening, particularly along South America, needs to be looked into. And now we're finding many of these species of starfish are gone. You know, the frequency of the Earth is increasing and speeding up. I wonder if that has something to do with it. Now, here's an interesting tidbit, factoid. So when you start laying out the statistics, there seems to be a correlation between the normal satellite paths and mass animal deaths. A connection? Could be. Are all these pointing to the end, saying it's near? And if we have any indication of what just the last 100 years have been like, OMG. Now this is a frightening graph. It's busy, I get it. And I'm going to spend a couple of more minutes on this one, because I want you to be able to read this for yourself. And as you can begin to see, this is also impacting plant life. So let's take a minute on this. You have mammals, right? Aquatic, the plant kingdom. Folks, if they're in trouble, we are even in worse trouble. And it continues. It continues to accelerate. Mammals, sea animals, reptiles, all of us are under attack. Mankind will soon be an extinct species if the past is any indicator. And it gets worse. We don't stop and want to think about this because it's depressing. I get it. But just because it's depressing, you'd be a damn fool not to want to do something. Because the numbers don't lie. And when you start getting to a 75% loss, you are in a mass extinction. Welcome. We are in an extinction. Just as these creatures once walked this earth, it may look like our future is their same fate. It's happened many times. The shocking amount, folks, is that in the modern 2000 era, it only continues. More and more across the world. It continues. We can clearly say we are approaching the precipice on some extinction, on some species, of being extinct. And it's kind of like using up your chips that you have in reserve. Because when you start getting to the 50 percentile on a global scale, right, you've passed the precipice. Something's happening. We don't know what it is. And then there's this mystery. When we look at what should be in the fossil record, and I am happy to announce that we have an archaeologist now as part of the group, the RSO Steiger Olson report, and they're going to be giving guidance. But something's happening. You know, when we lose an animal species to extinction, we lose part of our family. We're all connected, folks. I wish that every one of us would begin to realize that we are a species and we are definitely heading down the path to destruction. These numbers just continue to validate this over and over and over again. So are we in the midst of the sixth mass extinction? You know what it says. When we start getting past that 50% and you're headlong into 75%, it's gone too far. You can't save it. Is this what we're going to be saying? Extinction events. We've seen movies about them. We've read books about them. We see stories about them. And they're all apocalyptic. We all know that. This is what supposedly is all waiting. I don't think that has to be. If there's an event, fine. But I see most of us taking exactly this. You don't want to hear it. You don't want to see it. You don't want to talk about it. Get it. We're going to have to wake up. Because if we don't, this is going to be you. It's a fact, folks. Now, I know we need to begin to realize what is going on. In the weeks to come, I am going to be working on forming a nonprofit, and it's going to be called Homo Sapiens Unite. I'll be bringing you more information. Steve and I will be bringing you more on this. And it is my hope that we all will become a part of this. And that we could unite above governments, above ideologies, personal beliefs, and unite for a moment in history to realize that if we don't do something, we are extinct.